welcome. This is the first video of the YouTube channel, our views. We're going to be trying to do reviews, breakdowns of all different medias. So if you're enjoying it, if you like the content, like, comment, subscribe, and you'll see more from us. Well, maybe more from me. Maybe S will jump in here and there, and we'll see how it goes. Now, we're talking Obsession. As you can see above me, Obsession is one of those films that gets under your skin. It's creepy, but it's not outright terrifying. It has the tense atmosphere that you want from a film like this, but it's missing the mark on a couple things. It's anchored by a terrific performance by Indy Navarrete. I don't know if I'm saying her name right, and I apologize if I'm not. But while the movie is absolutely great atmospherically and storyline wise, just misses the mark on a couple beats. And we're gonna get into it. So if you don't want spoilers, fucking tune out now. Okay, the story follows Bear. Teenage boy, typical, got a crush on Nikki. After years of not confessing his love, he decides the best thing to do is a wish. So he buys this item called a One Wish Wonder, and he wishes that Nikki loves him more than anything. But this goes left. I'm telling you, this was not a good idea because Nikki becomes obsessed, and she becomes a little tapped. She's doing all madness.
Love only the branch of a willow tree could conjure.
It's a step further than her just turning into someone who's obsessed. It actually feels throughout the film that she's possessed by this entity that does love Bear. And we get a couple touches of that and some creepy moments. Obviously, she's doing creepy stuff. His cat dies at the beginning of the film. Man pulls out the rubbish and makes a shrine for it in their bedroom. Creepy stuff. I mean, she ends up making a sandwich with the cat meat. I don't know about that.
It scares me.
And obviously her behavior becomes increasingly strange and violent, and she's hurting herself, she's hurting other people, and it's not going well. So after Nikki's racked up a couple bodies, spun some creepy incestual literature, and shit and vomited all over herself,
Holy
Bear finds out that the only way to get rid of the wish is to kill himself. Before he tries that though, he tries to get another one of these items that you can make a wish on. Tries to make a wish, it doesn't work because you can only get one. Asks his friend Ian, make a wish. He don't believe him. He wishes for £1 billion instead. And at the end of the film, he's about to off himself. Then Nikki makes a wish on a One Wish Wonder that he falls in love with her in a crazy obsessive way, but it's too late because man's already popped a bunch of pills and he unalives himself. That's basically the movie.
The good stuff.
Okay, so the good parts about this film is it's an interesting story. It's not the craziest, most in-depth story, but it's interesting. Man makes a wish, she becomes obsessed. It makes sense. There's nothing about this film that like leaves me thinking, oh, I wasn't sure, I didn't understand it, It all makes sense in a really good way. The best thing I think about this film is Indy Navarrete's acting. She's absolutely phenomenal. She kills it. Her switch between being normal and being creepy, and her movement and her animatedness in this film is really what seals it. It's the glue that fits this film together. There's almost nothing I can say bad about her acting. Another amazing part of this film is the atmosphere and the lighting, the cinematography, everything, the set design and the colors used, the grade on this film is absolutely phenomenal. It all comes together to make an absolutely amazing feel and this creepy sense that permeates throughout the whole film. With the lighting as well, there's a couple scenes where Nikki is like almost completely silhouetted, which really adds to the creepiness of this whole film. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a horror. It's trying to creep you out, and it does a phenomenal job of that. It almost can't get better than this when it comes to atmosphere that the film created. It was throughout the whole film. You felt the intensity of every moment, every story beat, and they did a phenomenal job with it.
Okay, now the bad stuff.
Now, the negative parts of this film, or the parts I should say that they didn't do as well, is the side characters felt a little bit underdeveloped, and obviously we're focusing on Bear and Nikki here in this film, but the side characters just felt like they were plot points used to kind of push the film forward. They didn't feel like characters in their own right. Now we have the main two are Sarah and Nikki. Sarah is also kind of got a crush on Bear. We learn this, and she is the first character to get X'd off by Nikki. Now her death, it was emotionally underwhelming. Visually, it was shock and horror, a lot of violence. She gets her face smashed in. Nothing on that. But emotionally, I wasn't really tied to this character. There was a small story beat about her trying to get into university throughout the whole film. She's getting letters that are rejecting her, and then she finally meets up with Bear in the middle of the night, and she's got a letter from the university that she wanted to get into. This is where she wants to go, and she's about to open that with Bear, and then Nikki comes along, smashes her face into the car, and smashes Sarah's face in on the wheel of the car. Obviously, Bear's fucking terrified, and as you should be if that happens, if your girlfriend just kills a random woman in a car.
You killed her. Huh? I know you killed her.
So then Bear goes away. He's got her letter. He opens it. We find out that she got into the university. Whoop-de-doo, yay. So unfortunately, I'm not emotionally invested in this character. So this story beat doesn't hit for me. I don't really care that she got into this university. She, like I said, she's underdeveloped. I don't really have an emotional connection with her. So when all of this happens and we find out she's got into a university, even when we see her death, it's shocking, but it's not very emotional. And obviously with that beat, with that storyline, you can tell they were trying to garner some emotions from us, the viewer. They want to make us feel bad for this situation, but I'm in a horror film. I don't necessarily feel bad for this character because, like I said, I don't really have a deep emotional connection to her.
Don't you feel anything? Relief.
The other side character that's kind of just there is Ian. He's a little bit more predominant in the film than Sarah is. So you have a little bit more of a connection with him, but the issue I have is with his death. It's the way it's done. It's done towards the very end of the film, right at the climax. Bear goes to Ian, and Bear wants Ian to make a wish, to undo his wish. Obviously, Bear doesn't do that, doesn't believe him, so he just wishes for £1 billion. The emotional distress Bear feels in this moment is understandable because he's kind of just thrown his last wish away. His last hope of not having to kill himself. So he goes back to his house where Nikki's there with a gun, and she's flipping out. She doesn't know where he's been. He's been away too long.
Love you so much.
And that's when Ian knocks on the door and is like, yo, I'm a billionaire. And then Nikki shoots him. This death, it happens really quickly, and in the climax of the film, it has this kind of comedy element, his death, which I feel like kind of it didn't fully undercut the intensity that was building throughout the whole film, but it just throws in this comedy. I don't know if they were going for comedy in this scene, but it throws in this kind of jokey death at the end that doesn't feel like it's in the right place, and it doesn't feel like it's handled properly. But yeah, I just felt that the side characters were just underutilized, underdeveloped, and we don't really have the emotional connection with them for their deaths to really hold a lot of weight. And also the comedy aspect and the kind of funny death. I don't even want to call it funny death because it's not necessarily that funny. It's just, it's funny enough to undercut the tension in that very moment. I have an issue with those. The other issues I have is kind of underdeveloped moments or underdeveloped like story beats that I just wanted a little bit more of. One of them is the fact that Nikki is possessed by some sort of entity, and we don't really know what that is, and we don't get to find out what it is. I'm okay with not finding out what it is, but there was a couple moments. I think there was only one moment where I think Nikki is asleep in bed and Bear is creeping out in the middle of the night. I can't remember where he's going at that moment, but he thinks he's woken Nikki, and you hear Nikki like whispering, and Nikki says, "Oh, she's asleep."
Yo, so creepy, man.
Obviously, we're getting a glimpse into the real Nikki at this point, and they have a small conversation which is really eerie, really creepy, where Nikki confesses that, the person that's controlling my body isn't me, basically. She doesn't say it in so many words, but that's the gist we get from this small conversation. And then it's kind of never brought up again. This idea that the real Nikki is trapped in her own body is something that is genuinely terrifying. And I feel like if they built on that a little bit more, or if we had some more elements that were geared in that way, or if we had some more elements of this Nikki breaking through, it really would have upped the fear factor and added to the already amazing intensity in this film. It would have just taken it to the next level. So I was kind of disappointed we didn't get any more of that, or even a resolution. Like I said, I'm not too fussed about not getting a resolution to that. But the fact that it was only done once and then kind of we never see it again is a little bit jarring, and I just wanted a little bit more. I think another underdeveloped story beat, is the fact that there are some scenes where Nikki and Bear are together, and then Nikki looks at Bear's face and is absolutely terrified. She reels back in fear, and it just for a moment it's like, oh my god, she's seeing something, or is this the real Nikki breaking through for a moment and trying to get away? We're not sure, and because it's not very developed, we have no idea. Towards the end of the film, this happens a little bit more than Nikki breaking through, but also only happens a couple of times. We don't get any explanation of what's going on. In one of the scenes where this happens, I think she says, "Oh, he's coming," which is ominous in and of itself, but doesn't really add anything to the story, or it's just a creepy moment that's very underdeveloped.
And now the conclusion.
But yeah, overall, this was a phenomenal film, to be honest. It was only those couple problems I had, which is really coming down to me kind of nitpicking. I had to really go through a fine tooth comb in this film to find issues. Obviously, I probably spent majority of the time talking about those issues, but it's because what's great about this film is, I'm not gonna say that there's not a lot that's great with this film, but they did everything they needed to in an amazing way. And when you do that in a film, there's not a lot of good things to say about it, except for the atmosphere was perfect, the acting was phenomenal, cinematography, grading. You know what you're getting from this film, from the trailer, and they delivered. They delivered. I think they almost over delivered, because I don't think a lot of people were going into this film thinking it would be as good as it is. Yeah, like I said, there's just a couple moments that I think if they developed it more would push it up into the upper echelon of kind of psychological horrors. And yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I'm personally going to give it probably 7.5, 7.6. This is coming from a person that doesn't really watch a lot of horror films. So, take that with a grain of salt. I don't know if there's more out there that are way better than this. I don't know what the general public generally thinks about this film. So yeah, go check out the film. Watch it. Tell us what you think. Get in the comment section below and let us know what you thought of Obsession. As always, or for the first time ever, like, comment, subscribe, and follow us for the next one. Peace.